"Where'd you steal that uniform, boy?" Sergeant Victor Harlan's voice echoed through the Riverside Police Station lobby. A black man in full police blues stood at the front desk, badge clipped to his chest, pressed uniform, confident posture. Everything official. Too official. "You think putting on our clothes makes you a cop?" Harlan walked closer. "That black face in our uniform is an insult to every real officer here." The man turned. "I need to speak with..." Harlan charged, grabbed the collar, yanked him backward, and slammed him chest first into the reception desk. "Stolen valor. Impersonating an officer. You're going to jail." Steel handcuffs snapped on. The man's face pressed against the wood. Uniform crumpled. 13 officers watched from across the lobby. Nobody intervened. What just happened would change everything for every single one of them. Keep watching, because who this man really was would turn this department upside down. He remained there, face down and handcuffed, for what felt like an eternity. His badge pressed into his ribcage with every breath. The metal dug into his chest. Harlan stood over him. "Don't move. Backup's coming." The man, Chief Darius Kane, didn't move, didn't speak. His breathing stayed controlled, even though his wrists were going numb. 20 years as a cop had taught him this. Compliance buys time. Resistance buys a casket. The station continued, as if nothing had happened. Phones rang, keyboards clicked. Someone laughed in the break room. An officer walked past with coffee, glanced down, and kept walking. Not one person asked what was happening. Not one checked his badge. Not one saw a black man in uniform and thought to ask questions first. Those long minutes on that desk showed him everything. Not isolated incidents, but a culture, a system designed to protect itself. Earlier that morning, Darius Kane had stood in his bathroom straightening his tie. 43 years old, 20 years in law enforcement. Today was supposed to be different. Today he wasn't just a cop, he was the boss. His son Malik appeared in the doorway, 16, tall, wearing a basketball jersey. "You nervous?" "Should I be? New job, new city, new people who don't know you yet." Malik leaned against the doorframe. "Yeah, Dad, you should be nervous." Darius smiled, pinned his badge to his uniform. The gold shield caught the light. Chief of Police, Riverside. It had taken 15 interviews, 8 background checks, and months of waiting. But he got it. "You'll be home for dinner, right?" "Promise." "You always say that." "I always mean it." Darius grabbed his briefcase. Personnel files, budget re-ets, reform proposals, everything he needed to fix a broken department. "This is important, Malik. This city needs change. Just don't let them eat you alive." Darius paused. "They won't." But standing here now, face down on the desk, handcuffs cutting into his wrists, he wondered if his son had been right. Riverside had problems. Everyone knew it. Dozens of complaints filed against police officers over recent years. Only a handful resulted in real discipline. The rest buried, dismissed, lost in bureaucratic limbo. Black residents were stopped 4 times more often than white residents for identical infractions. Use of force incidents were significantly higher in minority neighborhoods. And every time someone complained, the system protected itself. The previous chief had retired quietly. No scandal, no investigation, just a pension. But everyone knew the complaints weren't accidents. They were patterns. And patterns mean policy, even if unwritten. The city council needed an outsider. Someone who didn't owe favors. Someone who couldn't be controlled by the union. Someone who would actually hold officers accountable. They chose Darius. "Outside perspective," Mayor Patricia Lang had said during his final interview. "You're not part of the old boys club. That's exactly what we need." Darius had asked the hard question. What if the department pushes back? Then you push harder. Now lying on this desk, Darius realized what pushback actually meant. It didn't mean arguments in meetings or bureaucratic delays. It meant this humiliation, this dehumanization. a message sent before he even reached his office. "You don't belong here." Harlan's radio crackled. "Sarge, we got his info. You need to see this." There was a long pause. Then Harlan's voice, quieter. "What?" "His badge number checks out. It's legit. And his ID says." The radio cut off. Silence stretched across the lobby like a held breath. Harlan grabbed Darius's shoulder, pulled him upright, and really looked at the badge on his chest this time. "Chief Darius Kane, Riverside Police Department." Harlan's face went pale. The handcuffs stayed on, but everything had changed. Harlan stared at the badge, then at Darius's face, then back at the badge. The words didn't compute. Harlan had been here 15 years. He knew every supervisor, every administrator. This black man wasn't supposed to be here. "Get these cuffs off me!" Darius's voice was flat, not angry, colder than angry. Harlan fumbled for his keys. His hands shook. The key missed the lock twice. Finally, the cuffs clicked open. Darius stood slowly, rubbed his wrists. Red marks circled both arms where the steel had cut in. He straightened his uniform, picked up his briefcase, and didn't look at Harlan. The lobby was silent. Every officer had stopped working. They were watching. Harlan cleared his throat. "Chief, we didn't know." "You didn't ask." Darius cut him off. "You saw a black man in uniform and assumed criminal. Didn't check credentials. Didn't ask questions. Just acted. It was a misunderstanding. It was exactly what it looked like." Darius adjusted his badge. The metal was bent from being pressed into the desk. Those long minutes on that desk. While Harlan decided what he was worth. Harlan's jaw tightened. "We have security protocol. I was wearing a badge. We thought it was stolen. Why?" The question hung. Harlan didn't answer. Couldn't. Because the truth wasn't about protocols. It was about assumptions, about who gets believed and who gets handcuffed. Darius picked up his briefcase. "What's your name?" "Sergeant Victor Harlan." "How long with Riverside PD?" 15 years. "Complaints against you?" Harlan hesitated. "Nothing sustained." "Nothing sustained," Darius repeated slowly. "Interesting." He walked toward the elevator. Officers stepped back like accountability was contagious. "Chief," Harlan's voice stopped him. "We take care of our own here. This department is a family. We protect each other." His confidence returned. "You're new. You don't know how things work, but you'll learn." Darius nodded. "I'll remember that." The elevator doors closed. Alone now, Darius exhaled. A long, controlled breath he'd been holding since Harlan grabbed him. His wrists throbbed, his chest ached, his shoulder hurt. But none of that mattered. What mattered was what had just happened. Those long minutes had shown him everything. Not isolated incidents, but a culture, a system designed to protect itself. The elevator opened on the second floor. Darius walked to his office. The door had his nameplate. He stepped inside. Small office, desk, chair, window overlooking the parking lot. Files stacked on the desk. Welcome materials, policy manuals. On top, a handwritten note. "Welcome to Riverside. Looking forward to working with you. Detective Sophia Grant, Internal Affairs." Darius sat, opened his briefcase, and took out his notebook. Leather worn. A gift from his father. The inscription inside. "Do right, even when it costs." It was costing already. His phone buzzed. "Malik. How's the first day?" Darius stared at the screen. He could lie, say everything was fine. Instead, "Complicated. Tell you tonight." He looked out the window. In the parking lot below, Harlan talked to 3 other officers. They were watching the building, watching his window. Darius recognized that look. People who just realized the rules might change, and they didn't like it. The door opened. A woman walked in. Mid-30s, detective badge, exhausted eyes. "Chief Kane, Sophia Grant." Darius stood and shook her hand. "You left the note." "I did." She closed the door. "I heard what happened. I'm sorry." "Don't be. Just tell me. Is Harlan always like that?" Grant's face stayed neutral. You should see his file. She slid a folder across the desk. Darius opened it. Inside, a dozen formal complaints. Excessive force, racial profiling, intimidation, falsified reports spanning several years, every single one marked not sustained, insufficient evidence, or complainant declined to cooperate. A dozen complaints, zero consequences. Darius looked up. How is this possible? The union. Grant sat. The POA protects everyone. Doesn't matter what you did. They bury it. I've been trying to investigate for years. Got nowhere. Why? Because the previous chief was part of the problem. He and the union president are golf buddies. Every complaint I flagged got closed. Every witness got intimidated. Every file got lost. She leaned forward. You want to know why Harlan felt comfortable doing what he did? Because he's done it before and nothing ever happened. Darius closed the folder and looked at Grant. Really looked. She was tired. Battle-worn. The kind of tired that comes from fighting alone. Not anymore, he said. Grant's expression didn't change. But something shifted in her eyes. Hope. Small, fragile, but there. What do you need from me? She asked. Everything, every complaint, every file, every name. That's going to make you very unpopular. I didn't come here to be popular. Outside, Harlan was still watching, but Darius wasn't backing down. A city maintenance worker had been in the lobby. He saw Harlan slam Darius into the desk, saw the handcuffs, saw the prolonged humiliation. He pulled out his phone and recorded the last few minutes. His caption, "They just handcuffed someone at the police station. Update, they handcuffed the new chief." By midday, the video had spread widely. Local news, then trending nationally. Darius sat in his office watching his phone explode with texts, emails, voicemails. Everyone wanted a statement. He ignored them all. Instead, he read files. Grant brought more. Officers with complaint histories, patterns of behavior, use of force incidents never properly investigated. One file. Officer Brian Voss, multiple complaints, illegal searches. One from Natalie Reyes. Strip-searched on the highway with cars passing. Finding, sustained with counseling. Translation, verbal warning. Back to work. Another, Officer Raymond Pierce. Multiple complaints, all from Black and Latino residents, all dismissed as unfounded. Another, Officer Dexter Callahan. Several complaints. Most recent, a teenager named Elliot Brooks beaten during a traffic stop, fractured ribs, emergency room. Callahan's report said the teen was combative. Medical records said otherwise. Finding, not sustained. Darius closed the file. How many total? Dozens of complaints over recent years. 18 different officers, only a couple got real discipline. Grant leaned against the desk. The union buries them. Complainant files paperwork. IA investigates barely. Union claims due process violations. Investigation stalls. Witnesses stop cooperating. Case closed. And you fought this for years, got isolated, your car keyed, your daughter harassed at school. Her voice dropped. The message was clear. Darius's jaw tightened. That ends today. A knock. An officer stuck his head in. Mayor's on line 1. Urgent. Darius picked up. Mayor Lang. Chief, the video is everywhere. Press conference soon. What's your plan? Do my job. That's not a plan. She paused. The union is calling this a misunderstanding. They're saying Harlan followed protocol. They're controlling the narrative. What are you doing about it? Darius looked at the files. Dozens of complaints. Dozens of people who got nothing. Full internal affairs investigation starting with Harlan, reviewing every complaint from recent years. Silence. Then, you understand what you're starting? Yes. The union will fight. Half the department will hate you. This gets ugly. It's already ugly. I'm making it visible. She exhaled. I'll back you publicly, but Chief, you better be right. I am. She hung up. The press conference happened soon after. Mayor Lang at a podium with reporters. Carefully worded statements about taking it seriously and supporting the chief's review. Then the union president, Harlan Voss, held his own press conference, surrounded by officers in uniform, a show of force. Our officers acted appropriately. Sergeant Harlan encountered an unidentified individual in a secure area. He followed protocols. When credentials were verified, the individual was immediately released. The video shows excessive force. The video shows a complex situation. Sergeant Harlan is a decorated veteran with an exemplary record. This rush to judgment is irresponsible. It undermines officer safety and morale. The union stood united. Darius turned off the TV. His phone rang. Unknown number. Chief Kane, Grace Coleman. My son was killed by Riverside Police years ago. Unarmed. The officer was cleared. Her voice was tired but firm. I'm not calling for sympathy. I'm calling because hundreds of us are gathering outside City Hall tonight. You need to know you're not alone. Darius gripped the phone tighter. Thank you. She hung up. That evening, hundreds of people stood outside City Hall, signs reading, "Dozens of complaints, zero justice." Bodies demanding to be seen. No chanting, just presence. Darius watched the news coverage. Malik texted, "Dad, you're on every channel. Are you safe?" He typed, "I'm fine. Home soon." But he wasn't sure that was true. His office door was still open. Through the window, he saw the parking lot empty now. Harlan was gone. But the battle lines were drawn. Hundreds outside believed in him. A police union with unlimited resources wanted him gone. And somewhere in this building, officers were making a choice. Adapt or resist. Darius closed his laptop, grabbed his briefcase. It was time to go home. Time to explain to Malik why his first day made national news. But tomorrow he went to war. In the days that followed, Darius stood before the city council for his official swearing in. The room was packed, media in back, community members filling every seat. Harlan sat 3 rows from the front, arms crossed. Mayor Lang administered the oath. "Do you solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution and laws of California?" "I do." "To serve Riverside with integrity and accountability?" "I do." "And to hold every officer, including yourself, to the highest standards?" "I do." The gavel fell. Darius Kane was officially chief. He stepped to the microphone. No notes. "Yesterday I walked into Riverside Police Station for the first time. Within minutes I was handcuffed and treated as a threat. Not because I resisted, but because officers saw a black man and assumed danger." Silence. Complete silence. Some asked if I would continue. The answer is yes, because if this happened to me, someone with a badge, someone with authority, what happens to everyone else? He paused. "Effective immediately. I'm ordering a full internal affairs investigation. Every officer involved will be interviewed, every policy reviewed. If violations are found, there will be accountability." Harlan's jaw tightened. "I'm placing Sergeant Victor Harlan on administrative leave with pay, pending investigation." The room erupted. Half applauded. The other half, off-duty officers, sat silent. Darius raised his hand. Noise died. "This department has good officers who serve with honor. But we also have a culture that protects misconduct. That ends today." Mayor Lang stood. "This council stands with you." Meeting adjourned. Soon after, Harlan was in internal affairs, handing over his badge and weapon. The symbol was clear. The system that always protected him had just stopped. Darius watched from his window. Harlan walked to his car. Rigid shoulders controlled movements, but his face showed disbelief. Grant appeared in the doorway. "Half the station is in shock. The other half is terrified." "Good. Fear means change is possible, or they push back harder. Let them." Grant handed him a thicker folder. "You wanted to know how deep this goes. Start here." Darius opened it. Dozens of complaints over recent years. Names, dates, allegations, outcomes, dozens of complaints, only a couple with real discipline. "Who else has access?" "Just me, and now you." Why didn't the previous chief act? Because he was part of the problem. Darius flipped through pages. Complaint after complaint. Pattern after pattern. Systematic. Institutional. Protected. I need to talk to these people. Every complainant. Most won't talk. They don't want to relive it. Then we make it safe. How? A CLU civil rights attorneys. Federal oversight if necessary. We make this bigger than Riverside. Grant nodded. That makes you a lot of enemies. I already have enemies. She left. Darius sat alone, the folder on his desk. Dozens of stories. Dozens of failures. His phone buzzed. Malik. Saw the ceremony. Proud of you, Dad. Darius smiled and typed, "Thanks, buddy." He set the phone down and looked at the folder. Harlan's file showed a dozen complaints. That meant many others across different ad offices. This wasn't about one bad cop. His door opened. Grant returned with a box. Financial records, union contracts, email chains between the previous chief and POA leadership. She set it on his desk. If you're really doing this, you need to see everything. Darius opened the box. Inside were documents that would change everything he thought he knew about this department. But when he started reading, what he found went deeper than misconduct, deeper than complaints. It went to money, power, and a system designed to protect both at any cost. The files covered Darius's desk. Dozens of complaints over recent years. A pattern so clear it was surgical. Grant sat across from him, laptop open. They'd been at this for hours. The station was empty. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. "Start with Harlan," Darius said. Grant pulled the first file. Complaint from Elliot Brooks, age 19. Traffic stop. Harlan pulled him over for a broken taillight. According to Elliot's statement, he complied with every instruction. License, registration, hands on the wheel. But when Harlan asked him to step out, Elliot asked why. That question became justification for everything that followed. Harlan's report. Subject was combative, reached toward waistband, posed imminent threat to officer safety. Elliot's medical report. 2 fractured ribs, contusions on back and shoulders, lacerations on wrists from handcuffs. Internal affairs finding, not sustained. Insufficient evidence to contradict officer account. Darius looked at the photos. Elliot Brooks shirtless in an emergency room. The bruises were deep purple, almost black, covering his ribcage like a map. What happened after the complaint was filed? Nothing. I interviewed Harlan. He stuck to his story, no witnesses. Elliot's word against a 15-year veteran. Grant's voice was flat. Case closed. Elliot moved out of state months later. Darius set the file aside. Next, Grant pulled another. Natalie Reyes, age 34, single mother of 2. Pulled over for expired registration. Officer Brian Voss asked to search her car. Natalie said no. She knew her rights. Voss called backup. 3 officers arrived. They searched anyway, found nothing. But during the search, they performed what Natalie's complaint described as a humiliating and invasive pat-down in full view of passing traffic. IA finding. Sustained with counseling. Officer received verbal reprimand. Verbal reprimand, Darius repeated, for violating Fourth Amendment rights. Standard outcome. Sustained means they admitted it happened, but discipline is discretionary. Union makes sure it stays minimal. Darius looked at the next file and the next. Complaint from Reverend Thomas Reed, age 62, pulled over while driving a church van full of food donations. Harlan stopped him for suspicious behavior, driving slowly through a residential neighborhood. The neighborhood where Reverend Reed's church ran a food bank where he'd distributed meals every Saturday for years. Harlan's report. Subject became verbally aggressive when questioned. Reverend Reed's statement. I asked why he stopped me. He told me to shut up and produce identification. I've never been spoken to that way in my life. IA finding. Not sustained. Darius counted. 12 complaints against Harlan. 8 against Voss. 6 against Dexter Callahan. 5 against Raymond Pierce. The rest scattered among other officers. Dozens total. Only a couple sustained with meaningful discipline. The rest dismissed, downgraded, or buried. Grant opened her laptop. I ran statistical analysis. It's not just raw numbers, it's patterns. She turned the screen toward Darius. Black residents significantly more likely to be stopped than white residents for identical infractions. Latino residents also disproportionately targeted. Use of force. Black and Latino residents accounted for a disproportionate share of incidents despite being a smaller percentage of the population. Searches overwhelmingly targeted people of color, with low success rates for finding contraband. Darius stared at the numbers. These aren't isolated incidents. This is policy. Unofficial policy. Nothing written. Just understood. Stop quotas, pressure to make arrests, and a union that protects anyone who crosses the line. Darius closed the laptop and opened another file. This one different. An email chain, printed and filed. Subject line, Harlan situation. Keep quiet. First email from Union President Harlan Voss to previous Chief Thomas Brennan. Tom, we need to close the Reed complaint quietly. If media gets hold of this, it's a nightmare. I'll handle union side. You handle council. No press, no public hearings. Make it go away. Response from Chief Brennan. Agreed. IA will find insufficient evidence. Harlan stays on duty. Let's move on. Darius read it twice. This is conspiracy. Obstruction. It's also how the system works. Union protects officers. Chief protects union. Council stays out because they don't want to fight the POA during elections. Grant leaned back. Everyone wins except the people who file complaints. Darius pulled out his notebook. The leather one. He wrote 3 names, Elliot Brooks, Natalie Reyes, Thomas Reed. We're going to find them. Every complainant in these files. We're going to ask them to tell their stories again on the record. Grant exhaled. They're scared. Most won't talk. They've been through it once. Then we make it safe. How? ACLU, civil rights attorneys, federal oversight. We make this bigger than Riverside. He stood and walked to the window. Outside, the city was dark. A few streetlights, a few cars. Somewhere out there, Elliot Brooks was trying to forget. Natalie Reyes was raising 2 kids. Reverend Reed was preparing Sunday's sermon. And Harlan, badge suspended but still collecting a paycheck, still protected by a union that had never let one of its own fall. Darius turned back. Get me contact information for every complainant. Prioritize the most recent. They're most likely to still be here, and if they say no, we respect that. But we ask. Grant closed her laptop and gathered files. You know, this gets worse before it gets better. I know. The union will fight. Harlan will fight. Half the department will see you as the enemy. Let them. She reached the door and stopped. Chief, for what it's worth, thank you. Darius nodded. When she was gone, he sat alone. The files were still there. Dozens of stories, dozens of moments when the system failed. His phone buzzed. Malik. You coming home? It's late. Darius checked the time, well past midnight. He texted back. On my way. Sorry. It's okay, just be safe. Darius gathered the files, locked them in his desk. Tomorrow he'd start making calls. Tomorrow he'd ask people to relive their worst moments. Tomorrow he'd begin dismantling a culture entrenched for years. But tonight he allowed himself one thought. This is why I took the job. He grabbed his jacket, turned off the lights, and walked to the elevator. The station was quiet, empty, but something was building. He could feel it. Pressure, momentum, the kind that comes before an explosion. In the parking lot, his car was alone. He got in, started the engine, and drove home through empty streets. When he pulled into his driveway, Malik was waiting on the porch, still awake, still worried. Darius got out and walked up the steps. You should be asleep. Couldn't sleep. Wanted to make sure you were okay. Darius put his arm around his son's shoulders. I'm okay. You don't look okay. I'm tired, but I'm okay. They went inside. The house was quiet, safe, normal. For a few hours, Darius could pretend the files didn't exist. The complaints didn't exist. The system he was about to dismantle didn't exist. But tomorrow it all came back, and it was bigger than he thought. In the days that followed, a lawsuit arrived, dozens of pages filed by the Riverside Police Officers Association on behalf of Victor Harlan. Claim: Chief Kane violated collective bargaining agreements. Remedy: reinstatement, removal of discipline records, and Kane's termination. Darius read it. Grant stood by the window. They're not playing. Neither am I. That afternoon, Union President Harlan Voss held a press conference. These allegations lack context. Sergeant Harlan is a veteran with an exemplary record. His voice was measured. Officer Dexter Callahan, named in Chief Kane's investigation, was a decorated member of this department. Tragically, Officer Callahan took his own life recently. His family blames the relentless pressure driven by this investigation. Cameras captured his solemn expression. This rush to judgment is destroying lives. Our officers followed protocol. Chief Kane is conducting a politically motivated witch hunt. By midday, it was the lead story. Officer suicide linked to Chief's investigation. The narrative shifted. Darius wasn't the victim. He was the aggressor. Malik called during lunch. "Dad, kids at school are saying you got someone killed." Darius closed his door. "It's complicated. Is it true? Did an officer kill himself?" "Yes, because of a system that protected him instead of holding him accountable. When accountability finally came, he couldn't face it." Malik was quiet. "Are you safe?" "I'm fine." "You don't sound fine. I have to go. Love you." He hung up. That evening, Grant received a text from an unknown number. "Drop it or your daughter will regret it." She screenshot it, forwarded it to Darius, and checked her daughter's location. Safe at home. In the parking lot, her rear tire was flat, slashed, clean-cut, deliberate. She called Darius. "They're escalating. I'm on my way." "Don't. If you come, they make this about protecting me." Her voice was steady. "I'll file a report, but I'm not running. Check in every few hours." "Deal." That night, Malik came home with a torn shirt. Darius saw it immediately. "What happened?" "Nothing. Malik. Some guys cornered me after practice. Said their dads are cops. Said you're making them look bad. Called you a traitor." Darius's jaw tightened. "Did they hurt you?" "Just pushed me, tore my shirt." "Names." "It doesn't matter. If you do something, it makes it worse." Malik's voice dropped. "Just let it go." Darius wanted to argue, but he saw the look in his son's eyes. The same look in Elliot Brooks's file. The same look in Natalie Reyes's complaint. The look that said, "I just want this over." "Okay, but if it happens again, I know." They sat in silence. The TV was on. A talk show host discussing Riverside. "Chief Kane is overreaching, prioritizing politics over safety. Good officers thrown under the bus." Darius turned it off. Malik looked at him. "Are you going to quit?" "No." "Why not?" "Because if I quit, they win, and the next dozens of people have no one." Malik nodded. He didn't fully understand, but he trusted his father. That night, Darius sat alone late. Coffee cold, phone off. He thought about Dexter Callahan. Dead. Media blaming Darius. Union blaming Darius. But Darius had read Callahan's file. Several complaints, most dismissed. One sustained with counseling. Callahan wasn't a monster. He was a product of a system that taught him consequences didn't exist. When they finally arrived, he couldn't handle it. Darius didn't feel guilty, but he felt the weight. His father's inscription echoed, "Do right, even when it costs." It was costing. His laptop was open. Email draft, subject, letter of resignation, body blank, cursor blinking. He stared at it for a long time. His phone buzzed. "Grant, you awake?" he called. "Yeah, can't sleep. Been thinking about whether this is worth it. Whether we're making things better or burning everything down." Darius didn't answer immediately. "You want to stop?" Silence. Then, no, but I want to know we're not destroying lives for nothing. Darius looked at the blank email. I don't know if we are. If you stop now, they win, and the next dozens of people have no one. Darius closed the laptop. I'm not stopping. You sure? No, but I'm not stopping. They talked for a while longer. Strategy. Next steps. When they hung up, Darius deleted the resignation email. Didn't save it. Just gone. He poured water and drank it at the sink. The house was silent. Malik asleep upstairs. The world hadn't changed, but Darius had passed the doubt now, past the fear. Not because fear was gone, but because he'd decided to act anyway. Upstairs, he checked on Malik. The boy sprawled across his bed, safe, oblivious. Darius closed the door quietly. He didn't sleep, but he stopped staring at walls. In the days that followed, something shifted. The ACLU brief landed on Darius's desk. Dozens of pages. Attorney Preston Whitmore's signature at the bottom. Amicus Curiae brief in support of Chief Darius Kane and the internal investigation into systemic misconduct. Whitmore had called days earlier. We've represented Riverside PD victims for years. Multiple lawsuits, millions in settlements, all with NDAs. Nothing changed. You're the first with power actually trying to fix it. The brief laid out everything. Statistical evidence, case summaries, testimony from plaintiffs willing to violate NDAs. It was a legal weapon. Darius read it twice and called Whitmore. When can you be here? Already on my way. That afternoon, Officer Liam Torres walked into Darius's office, 26, 3 years on the force. He was in the lobby that morning. Chief, I was there when you got cuffed, 10 feet away. I didn't do anything. I should have. Why now? Torres pulled out a folded paper. Because nearly 200 other officers and I want you to know you're not alone. A petition, nearly 200 signatures. We stand with Chief Darius Kane. We believe in accountability. We join to protect and serve, not to protect misconduct. Darius read every name. The union will target everyone on this list. We know we're doing it anyway. Thank you. Thank us when it's over. That evening, journalist Lena Hart published the first of a series. Headline: Riverside POA's secret cash flow, hundreds of thousands in annual kickbacks. The article traced money from a training contractor to the POA's discretionary fund. In exchange for training contracts, the contractor guaranteed union leadership administrative fees. Legal, barely, but damning. Voss's name everywhere. Signatures, emails, bank deposits. By evening, it had spread widely. By later, thousands of people outside City Hall. Signs: justice for the dozens. No more cover-ups. We stand with Kane. Grace Coleman stood at the front, holding her son's photograph. She wasn't alone anymore. Hundreds surrounded her. Black, white, Latino, Asian, young, old. A city tired of the same pattern. Darius watched from his window. Grant beside him. We did it. No, we started it. His phone rang. Unknown number. Chief Kane. Special Agent Elena Vargas, FBI. I've reviewed materials your attorney sent. We need to talk. Darius sat up. I'm listening. Not on the phone. Riverside tomorrow morning, your office. I'll be here. She hung up. Darius looked at Grant. FBI just called. Grant's eyes widened. What did they say? They want to talk. Outside, thousands of voices rose. Not chanting, just presence, demanding to be heard. Nearly 200 officers had signed a petition. The ACLU had filed a brief. A journalist had exposed financial corruption. Thousands filled the streets. And the FBI was coming. Darius wasn't alone anymore. Neither were the dozens who had filed complaints. But the biggest revelation hadn't dropped yet. An unmarked envelope arrived at Darius's office. No return address, no note, just a USB drive. Darius held it up to the light. Ordinary black plastic. Could be anything, could be nothing. He plugged it into his computer. One file, An audio recording over 40 minutes long dated weeks earlier before Darius was even hired. He pressed play. The audio quality was clear. Background noise, chairs scraping, papers shuffling, someone clearing their throat, then voices. Union President Harlan Voss. All right, let's get started. We need to talk about the complaints. Second voice. How many this quarter? Voss. 14. Same as last quarter. Most are Harlan. A few others. Third voice. What's the play? Voss. Same as always. We've buried complaints before. We'll do it again. IMA reviews them. Finds insufficient evidence. Case closed. The new chief might be a problem, but he's not here yet. By the time he figures out the system, we'll have everything locked down. Second voice. What about community groups? They're pushing for transparency. Voss. Let them push. We have the union contract. We have collective bargaining. They can't touch us without violating labor law. And if they try, we sue. It's worked for decades. It'll work now. Laughter. Not malicious, just casual. The laughter of people who'd never faced consequences. Fourth voice. What about Grant? She's still poking around. Voss. Grant's done. She has no allies, no credibility. She filed reports for years and nothing happened. She's learned her lesson. She's persistent, though. Voss. Persistence without power is just noise. More shuffling. Someone coughed. Then Voss's again. Listen. The city paid us hundreds of thousands last year from training contracts alone. The contractor is happy. We are happy. Officers get better equipment. Everyone wins. But that only works if we keep pressure off. No scandals, no media, no federal attention. Make sure IA keeps doing its job, which is making problems disappear. The recording continued with details about specific complaints, strategies for deflecting media inquiries, discussion about which council members were sympathetic and which needed managing. At one point, someone asked, "What if the new chief doesn't play ball?" Voss's response was immediate. "Then, we make him irrelevant. File grievance, challenge every decision, make his life so difficult he either quits or gives up. We've done it before." The recording ended. Darius sat in silence. He saved the file, made copies, sent one to Whitmore, one to Grant, one to Secure Cloud. Then he called the number Agent Vargas had given him. "Agent Vargas, this is Chief Darius Kane. I have evidence of systemic corruption within my department and obstruction of justice by the police union. I'm requesting a federal civil rights investigation." Pause, then, "Send me everything you have." Hours later, Special Agent Elena Vargas was in his office. Experienced, sharp eyes, sharper questions. She listened to the audio, reviewed files, examined financial records, read the journalist's reporting. When she was done, she looked at Darius. "This is bigger than one department. We're opening a full investigation, federal jurisdiction. We'll need your cooperation." "You have it. And Chief Kane, once we're involved, this goes public. National media, congressional inquiries. Your life is about to get very complicated." Darius nodded. "It already is." Vargas stood and extended her hand. "Then let's complicate it further." They shook. Outside, Harlan stood in the parking lot, talking to 3 officers. They were watching Darius's window. They didn't know yet, but they would. When the public hearing arrived, every seat in the city council chambers was full, standing room only. Hundreds packed into a space designed for far fewer. Dozens of media cameras, national networks, local stations, independent journalists, and streaming live. Darius Kane stood at the center table. To his left, Attorney Preston Whitmore. To his right, Detective Sophia Grant. Behind him, Officer Liam Torres and nearly 200 officers who had signed the petition. Across the aisle, Union President Harlan Voss, flanked by attorneys. Victor Harlan sat in the front row, arms crossed, face impassive. Mayor Patricia Lang called the meeting to order. "This hearing is convened to review findings of the internal affairs investigation and to vote on proposed reforms. Chief Kane, you have the floor." Darius stood, no notes. He spoke for several minutes. He presented data, dozens of complaints, only a couple with meaningful discipline, statistical disparities in stops, searches, and use of force. He introduced testimony from 3 complainants. Elliot Brooks appeared via video call from out of state. His voice shook, but he told his story. Natalie Reyes stood at the podium. She didn't cry, just stated facts. Reverend Thomas Reed's testimony was quiet, dignified, devastating. Then Darius played the audio. Voss's voice filled the chamber. "We've buried complaints before. We'll do it again." The room erupted. Voss's face went pale. His attorneys leaned in, whispering frantically. The audio continued, each sentence more damning than the last. When it ended, the silence was absolute. Mayor Lang turned to Voss. "Mr. Voss, would you like to respond?" Voss's attorney stood. "On advice of counsel, Mr. Voss declines to comment at this time." Lang's expression hardened. "Very well, Sergeant Harlan." Harlan's attorney stood. "My client invokes his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination." The crowd murmured. Cameras captured everything. Council member Whitfield leaned forward. "Chief Kane, what are you asking this council to do?" Darius's voice was steady. "I'm asking you to vote yes on the reform package. Mandatory body cam activation for all civilian encounters. Creation of an external oversight board with subpoena power. Quarterly public reporting of complaints and outcomes. And immediate termination of the current union contract with the training contractor." Whitfield nodded. "I've heard enough. I move to approve the reform package in its entirety." "Second," another council member said immediately. Mayor Lang looked at her colleagues. "All in favor?" 7 hands rose, every single one. The motion passed unanimously. "Chief Kane, you are authorized to implement these reforms immediately." The chamber exploded, applause, cheering. Someone shouted, "About time!" Voss stood and walked out. Harlan followed. Their attorneys trailed behind, already on phones, already preparing the next lawsuit. But it didn't matter. Not anymore. The vote was done. The reforms were law. An FBI investigation was underway. Outside, Grace Coleman stood on the steps, holding her son's photograph. Reporters surrounded her. "How do you feel?" "Like maybe finally things might change." Darius watched from the doorway. Grant beside him. "We did it." "No, we started it." The gavel fell. But this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. In the weeks that followed, a dozen officers turned in their badges. Victor Harlan, Brian Voss, Raymond Pierce, and others. Some resigned, some were terminated. All faced federal civil rights investigations. Harlan Voss stepped down as POA president. He wasn't charged, not yet, but scrutiny was unbearable. His replacement was an officer who had signed Torres's petition. The new policies were clear. Darius signed each one. Body cam footage reviewed weekly by the external board. Complaint data published quarterly. The training contractor lost its contract. Malik stood next to his father at the signing ceremony. "Dad, you kept your promise." Darius looked at him. "Not just to you, to the dozens who filed complaints." That evening, Darius sat in his office, the same office where weeks earlier he had planned to resign, cursor blinking on a blank email. Now the desk was clear, files archived, work ongoing. He thought about the morning he walked in, minutes from entrance to handcuffs. Those long minutes on that desk. One video that changed everything. He had worn the badge. They had put him in cuffs. But the badge still meant something now. Accountability. Not just authority. Darius closed his laptop and walked out. The station was quieter, different. Not perfect, but better. Outside, the sun was setting. Riverside looked the same, but something underneath had shifted. Real change is messy, painful, slow, but it starts with one person deciding that silence costs more than speaking up. If this story mattered to you, let me know in the comments. Have you seen real change happen in your community? I want to hear it. Hit that like button. Subscribe, because stories like this aren't over. They're just beginning. Thanks for listening.